Thanks everyone for the warm introduction, and thank you all for being here. I know it's really cold in here, isn't it? I'm shivering here. So just wanted to thank Jake and his family for coming up. What an amazing story. That Theodore Roosevelt impression, impressive. And yeah, what an amazing story of, not focusing on what you can't do, but doing what you can do. And I think that's great advice. So I'll be talking a little bit about how I've been able to thrive with Duchenne as well, and a little bit more of what I do to maintain my health and how I've been able to be independent living at USC and going to school. So I thought I'd start with a dog photo because who doesn't love dog photos? So I just want to start with sleep, that it's a super important part of your health, and I think it often gets overlooked by people, and it really gives your muscles time to rest and get ready for the next day. And so I typically try to get 9 to 10 hours of sleep a night, and it's really a balancing act. I think sometimes you have to choose between your sleep and your health and doing a bunch of other things. And I think a lot of the time you have to teach your kids to learn how to say no to things and how to really say yes to things that are important to them, to drama, to whatever they're into. And you'll feel a lot better throughout the day, and it'll make a big difference. So that's the first step for the most important things I think there are to staying healthy. And then water is super important. I know that it was talked about yesterday at the UMass panel, that it's really important to drink water. And I don't know if you can tell what that is, but that is a kidney stone, and that could be caused by the supplements that you take, all the vitamins and stuff that you take, kind of coming together in your kidney and creating a stone, and that is what it looks like, and that's what it feels like going down your ureter. So I would encourage, water is very important to help prevent that, and I don't want any of you to have that, so I would just encourage that. And obviously, it's good for passing things through, if you know what I mean. And so I should drink 2 32-ounce water bottles, so those are 2 Nalgene bottles. And definitely that's important, and it allows you to dilute the medication that you have and allow it to pass through you better. And a good way to know if you're drinking enough water is what color your pee is, and if it's a color that's the wrong answer, it should be clear. So, and then I know everyone's gonna like this. A balanced diet is super important. I know broccoli has been mentioned a lot by a lot of different people. So why is broccoli on the list? It has a lot of fiber, which helps, again, pass things through. And it's also, I don't know if you knew this, associated with the lower risk of cancer, and has a lot of vitamin K, which is 1 cup of chopped broccoli has over 100% of the daily value you need for that. So there's a lot of good stuff in broccoli. It's kind of gross, though, starting off. So I just imagine, all the good it's doing when I eat it to make it better. And when I was younger, I would, whatever, plug your nose or dip it in ketchup. I know that's weird, but that's what I did. And I know my parents talked about that yesterday. And then also protein is important as well to, maintain our strength. And there isn't any data that supports, this is better for Duchenne that I could find. However, it definitely keeps me alert and awake, and it's good for your brain. And it really helps me get through the day if I'm ever feeling tired or anything like that. Nuts are good, like cashews, almonds, things like that. And then portion size is something that's really important too. A lot of restaurants have way bigger portions than kids with Duchenne should be eating, based off of the fact that we're not burning as many calories as most kids are. And we also we want to be careful about over nutrition as well, and giving our kids too much. Obviously, I don't give my kids anything because I don't have kids, but you know what I mean. So that's really important. You don't want to eat too much, and you want to really maintain your body weight so it's easier, to move around as long as you can. And then the last thing is limiting sugar and salt is really important, because sugar can easily turn into fat if you're not burning it on a consistent basis. And also salt can make you puffy based off of the fact that we take steroids, and that there's that interaction. So that also is helpful. A lot of restaurants will put a lot of salt in their food, so we've kind of asked to put low salt, or even when you cook for yourself, you know exactly how much you're putting in, and that way you can really limit that amount. Yes, flu shot. You definitely don't want to get sick, because obviously our immune system isn't as strong as other people with the steroids that we're taking. So it's really important that you stay on top of your health, and I think sleep's really important. I think getting your flu shot is really important to protect yourself and everyone else, and it's that season as well. So I'm saying that not just because it's time to get a flu shot, but because we also want to be careful about how we look at our health and how we treat ourselves, and not let it get too far. Yeah, so I know I've been getting a lot of questions about supplements, which I think are very important to address some of the side effects of inflammation and other Duchenne-related things. It's hard to say that I'm doing better just because of this one supplement or this one thing that I'm taking. I think obviously it's a combination of a lot of different things: stretching, taking these supplements, getting a good night's sleep, all of that. And there's also a lot of amino acids that I take, like arginine and creatine. Glutamine, I would say I'm not great at, I haven't been great lately about taking everything, because school kind of gets in the way. So I think establishing a regular schedule of when you take your pills, like I have my morning set of pills, I have my afternoon set of pills, and I have my dinner set of pills. And I think just doing that throughout the day makes it easier to take, whatever 30 pills that you have to take on a daily basis. And I would say the best way to get used to taking pills for those who have younger kids is to reward them by having them swallow M&Ms or something like that. I know when I was first starting out with my pills, I would have to swallow M&M to get an M&M, and so kind of encouraging that was helpful. And then there's a lot of the supplements that are in liquid form as well that you can take, like CoQ10, for example. And obviously what works for me might not work the same for another person, so definitely make sure that you run it past your doctor and see if they're okay with it. And I'm sure, most of the time it is, but just double check that. And then I just wanted to add, I do take this fermented soy product called Halen as well, that we're not sure if it's helping or not, but I think having that is just another example of what I was talking about earlier. I think it's a combination of all the things that help with that. And I do have a hyperlink to a list of all the supplements I take, so I can share that with you if you want, and you can go off of that. Yes, medication and steroids. So this is kind of a little bit of what I've done. So I started human growth hormone my teenage years, and it helped me attain a height that I was comfortable with, but not too high that it would be harder for me to get around. So there's definitely a balance with a lot of these things. And the other thing that I didn't write down that I just remembered is that it can also help with your bone density and increasing that as well. I also, on the same train of thought as or bone density, I take Fosamax once a week, and that helps maintain that bone density and prevent osteoporosis and that kind of thing. And I would say for those who are taking it or planning on taking it, it can affect your teeth, which are also bones. I got my wisdom teeth out from my freshman year in college, and I ended up developing an infection because of it. So you want to make sure you're really careful and talk to whoever's doing the surgery and make sure that they're on the same page, and start taking antibiotics in front of that so you don't have to deal with it. And then going on to my heart medication, losartan and eplerenone, those help reduce scarring and ensure your heart function is retained throughout your adulthood. And then there's steroids. Emflaza is the name of the Deflazacort essentially, and hopefully insurance should cover that. If not, there'll be people here who can probably help answer those questions. I'm not that person, but yeah, I think Deflazacort's a great supplement or steroid that you can take, and I think it's really made a difference for me in my life. And obviously you want to talk to your doctor in all these cases. I am not a doctor, so. Yeah, and then going on to some of the devices that I use. We talked a little bit about the cough assist yesterday, but that has been really important. For me lately, I've been having I have a little infection, so I've been coughing, and that's been helping me, if I need to get any phlegm up, it's been helping with that and really getting it out of your system. And it also helps stretch your intercostal muscles in between your rib cage. And so that's good for, maintaining your ability to breathe well. And then a BiPAP, which is a bi-level positive airway pressure system, helps with sleep apnea. And I know that's something that's important because you don't want your diaphragm working more than it needs to while you sleep, and you don't want to get sleep apnea because that really affects your sleep. And I have a pretty mild form of it, and I will tell you it's a struggle to use it, and I've been very bad about it, as my parents can tell you. But with that, I would say if your kid is young enough and sleeps hard, put it on them while they're sleeping. That could help. Or try some different masks that they have available for you. It kind of works depending on your face. There's differences between everyone. And sometimes you have to force it on yourself. So it's really just taking a week of vacation that you have and just using it. You might get 5 hours of sleep one night, but you're probably not going to do that the whole week. You're eventually going to fall asleep and get used to it. And I say to do that, but I don't do that. But please do that because it'll be better. And even if you don't need it, it's good to get used to it now so that you won't need it later. It's always about getting in front of it, especially with wheelchairs and all that kind of stuff. Has been very important for me to stay ahead of it so when that time comes, you don't have to be struggling and grasping to know what to do next. You already have it in place. So even if your kid doesn't need it, you should start thinking about it now. And then night splints and wrist splints are also important. I wear night splints at night that help stretch my ankle muscles. I saw Jake had some nice looking ones on today. And so those are very important to maintain your mobility and your range of motion. And that's something that's definitely allowed me to still be able to walk, because if you're too tight, you're gonna have to be working against the tightness and it'll make it harder. And then the next thing would be wrist splints are good to make sure your wrists are stretched out. I know I have some issues with my fingers getting tight from, you don't have to guess, but it's from playing video games. And doing that motion repetitively, typing or whatever, I think it's super important to have night splints, and you don't really need to get them custom fitted. They have some generic ones, and it really allows you to, it doesn't have to be at night per se, because you kind of want to have your hands free in case you want to get up or something, but during the day, if you're watching TV or something, it's good to put that on for a little bit and help stretch it out. Yeah, so that kind of goes into stretching and the importance of stretching. It's very important in any daily routine, and I do it every day, and I have done it pretty much every day since I've been diagnosed, and it allows enough flexibility, like I said, to still be able to walk, and it's really different for everyone, but it's really great to have stretching, to stretch your hamstrings, wrists, fingers, quadriceps, all that kind of stuff. And I would definitely talk to Jennifer, who is probably here, but she has been amazing. She actually was one of the early people to diagnose me, shortly after she finished her schooling at Chapman. And apart from that, my parents have learned how to stretch me as well through that. And, she can teach through Duchenne Therapy Networks, and CureDuchenne how other therapists in your area to best do it, because a lot of therapists will have good intentions, but they'll end up wanting you to do strengthening, which is definitely not what you want to do. A lot of physical therapists want to revert to being normal, but that isn't the thing. So I'd be careful about that and talk to Jennifer if you have any questions. And apart from that, stretching with my parents has been a great way to bond with my mom and my dad, and I'm kind of forced to talk to them for that half-hour time period. So it's fun. And at college, it's been kind of going on to the independence of it. It's definitely been tough to work into my schedule. So what I've done is there's a USC clinic, and USC has a good physical therapy school, and so I've gone to the clinic at USC twice a week this semester, sometimes 3 times a week, to get stretched out by a grad student, and they really appreciate the opportunity to be able to learn about it and do that. And then the rest of the days, I have pre-physical therapy students come to volunteer and stretch me on those days that I'm not at the clinic and on the weekends, and even my friends as well. And that's where communication is of the utmost importance in this. We talked about it earlier, and Jake and his family talking about that, and you really have to be open and honest with people about what you need, because they're going to be wanting to help, and you really have to improve how you communicate what your issue is to people. So I definitely encourage young adults and kids to really get their story straight and be able to communicate, what's wrong with them, and be able to communicate things like stretching and the right positions. And I feel like I've already gone through a year of physical therapy school based off of everything that I've learned through that as well. Yeah, and just kind of going off of that, don't let Duchenne get in the way of you, because there's so much that is available and so many things that you can do that you wouldn't think about, but with enough adaptation, it can work. So that's my blue scooter, which I use for traveling to different places. So I was in Tijuana to do some reporting about deportees in Mexico, and that was, my parents were like, what? What are you gonna do? So we ended up getting a family friend who's awesome to come with us and to essentially be my bodyguard and also stretch me. And that was really fun and really fun. And, friends can do that as well. And another example is I went to Vietnam my senior year of high school with a bunch of friends. And, my dad took me on his shoulders through these cave systems in Ha Long Bay in Vietnam. So that was interesting. Obviously, not everyone physically is able to do that, so there's workarounds, of course, but it was a great way to bond with him. And I've definitely transitioned over to my Primwheel F5, which I've seen a lot of Primwheel F5s. That has some cool rims, too. I want to get some of those rims. But I've been using that to get around school. It's pretty quick, too, so that's nice. I don't have to leave so early for class. And then, I want to talk about the buddy system. You need, like my dad was, you need someone to be your arms and legs for you. And it's really finding a friend or family member, family friend to be there to kind of know what you need before you need it and, be there to help you out. And that's hard to find a group like that. But it's so important. And for example, my friends at school, we were at Disneyland, and obviously the rides at Disneyland, some of them like Space Mountain aren't exactly the most accessible. So they lifted me in and out of the ride, and so that was great. And it's especially important when your parents aren't around to find someone like that, especially in college, because they're not going to be around to do that. And it goes back to communication, and it definitely, you have to get your pride out of the way a little bit, because it's really can feel demeaning to ask for help for some things, but it'll work out for the best in the long run, and you really need people to help you. So, like I was introduced, it's easy to feel isolated or alone. Like you can't do all the things that your friends are doing, and especially for me, like at school, there aren't any other kids with physical disabilities that I interact with. At USC, there actually are more, and that's been great to be able to see the diversity of that college campus. And it's so much bigger. It's 40,000 people there. That it's been great to see that. But what I wanted to talk about is plugging in with the community is very, very important, especially if you're feeling isolated. And one example is some Boy Scouts is something that I've always cherished and has been great to me. It's a great way to make friends and interact with your classmates, learn how to be a leader, all of those great things. And if there's worry about, I have to do this physical fitness merit badge, there's workarounds. Like I did a cooking merit badge, and there's workarounds to that, and even some of the requirements to progress to the next rank. So like Jake and family said, it's very important to plug in with that community, and it really makes you feel welcome. And then in the other community, you'll see these nice looking guys right here. Those are just a few of the 13 other people I live with at my house at USC. And I was able to meet them through Christian Challenge, and my life has changed because of that. Duchenne is definitely a struggle for me, but it's not so big when you have God in the picture, and it makes you seem a little bit smaller, and it's really been life-changing for me. And I was telling some other people this earlier this morning, but service is an important part of following Jesus. And I see that every day from the 13 guys that I live with. And like, for example, they help me clean my room, shop for groceries, help me upstairs, and I have, a sign-up list for them every week to help me out with that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's quite amazing. I've seen my growth in my faith really improve, and it's given me a lot of hope for the future and been life-changing. Yes. So, just before I get into the questions part of my talk, I have communication on here, but we already know you got to make sure that you explain yourself well to other people. And yeah, so I just took that grad photo the other. I'm not graduating until May, but I guess they made me take it really early. But so it is possible to go through college. There's workarounds. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to talk to you. I don't know how much time I have, but I'm on my question slide, so if you do have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Mom.
Very nice. So you touched on your supplements and medications. I promised everybody that you would actually go through and talk about every supplement you take. Would you mind just going through, and you can do it by memory, because you get your pills together every single day. And again, remind everybody that this is not being recommended, but that people are curious, just for example, what you take.
Okay. All right, let's try this. So in the morning, get your pen and paper ready for this. So I take optimized resveratrol, which is an extract from grapes, I believe, which is found in wine too. And that's one of them. The other one is I take turmeric supplements as well. I take green tea extract, CoQ10, obviously multivitamin, and that kind of depends on the age of your kid. Protandim I take as well. That helps reduce free radicals in your system, which is a cause to cancer. And then my obviously prescribed pills, Emflaza, Losartan, and Plerinone, Fosamax once a week. Yeah, I'm trying to go through my cabinet from front to back and figure it out from there. Okay, that's all I can think of for the morning right now. I'm getting there. Don't worry. And so afternoon pills is arginine, creatine, and glutamine, which are all supplements that bodybuilders take, which is kind of funny. So it's to help with muscle strength and retaining that muscle. And at night, I take CLA, that's C as in candy, L as in lady, and A as in apple. And I'm not exactly sure what a lot of these do, so if you have more questions, talk to my mom. But I know what some of them do. And then there's vitamin D, which I also take and helps, add to your diet and helps, I believe, with bone. Yeah. And calcium. What the supplement I take is Bone Up, and that obviously helps with calcium, helps your bones. Also take alpha lipoic acid. Sound it out. I don't know how to say it. And then HMB, which is another sort of bodybuilder thing, like arginine and creatine and glutamine. And then magnesium supplements, very important. Supposedly helps with sleep too. Oh, apple cider vinegar is another one. That helps with constipation, so that's good as well. And I'm pretty sure I got most of it. Let me look. Because I do have a list that I was going to share with people if they wanted it. Yeah, that's pretty much most of it. So thank you for your question. Oh, prunes. Yes, prunes are important. P words, right? Prunes are very important as well. It makes a big difference. I usually have 2 to 3 a day, sometimes every other day, but that's great. Also, Miralax is good as well. It's worked well for me.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Have you ever been on prednisone, and have you seen a difference from the plasma?
No, I've never been on prednisone before, so can't really answer what the difference is, but yeah, I think maybe some other people might be able to talk about that.
So you take a lot of supplements. How did you find out about the supplements and what to take?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's just research, and my mom has had to look at a lot of scientific studies and find out a lot about that as well. Is that how you found out?
Yeah, I mean, over the years, you know, we read a lot, and if it was something that made sense and was known to have no negative side effects, we gave it a try. And once we put together the formula and he was doing well, we just didn't want to really change anything.
Yeah, so if no one heard that, I was just kind of looking at what, for any regular person what would be great for them, and if there were any side effects. If there were no side effects, then we put me on it, and then we didn't want to take me off because I seemed to be doing well, and so we just kept the process.
Hello, Hawken. You are incredibly amazing person. Thank you so much for being here. Is there any way that we can get a list of the supplements that you're taking, maybe in the form of email or something? Maybe if you have a copy, I can take a photocopy of that.
Yeah, I have a Google spreadsheet that I have hyperlinked on my presentation, so...
Great.
Kylie will send it to you.
Okay, great.
Have Kylie send it to
Okay.
everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd
The
be great.
request. Yep.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Hey, Hawken.
And one,
One more question?
I just have one question. How much quantity of deflazacort you're taking right now, and
Deflazacort,
did you make any variations ever since you start taking
Yeah,
deflazacort?
so it's depending on weight. Right now, I'm on 45 milligrams. Daily, yeah.
I had a question. So, when you're taking all these supplements and medications, stuff like that, are there certain types of tests that you should ask your doctor to take? Like, for an example, when I first started, doing research and giving my son some supplements, he actually started bruising. Because I know if you take too many antioxidants, because you want to reduce inflammation, it can actually cause bruising or thinning of your blood. And but I just didn't know what kind of test I could ask for, to make sure that we're not overdoing it.
I would say all of the tests, but that's about as specific as I could go. Do you want to give Mike?
Right. So we've gotten a lot of questions, and parents wanting us to post, what Hawken's taking. I've been really resistant to do that because it's not a recommendation. People have asked us, and so I wanted Hawken to say this, but we asked Dr. Wong. She knows exactly what he's taking. And I would recommend anybody before they add any supplements or any medication of any kind to check with a Duchenne specialist physician.
So it's unfortunate that my 19-year-old son is at a power soccer tournament because I really would have liked to introduce you. He's a sophomore in college this year, and I find him not as physically able but equally motivated. But I have a question about You did talk about, how you're starting to arrange your own physical therapy. Unfortunately, he's not been a stretcher lifelong. He didn't enjoy it. But I'm starting to want him to become more active in making his own doctor's appointments and really choosing care, because he's been hesitant to do that. Is that something that you've done? And if so, how have your parents sort of pushed you out of the nest in that way in order to start your communications with your own doctors?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it kind of happened. It was just my parents were busy with the foundation and everything, and a lot of it kind of fell on me. Like, I would start putting down my phone numbers and stuff on the sheets, and they would just start contacting me. And as far as being able to keep that schedule, I use iCal a lot on my phone, and like I give alerts to myself. I have this appointment at this time. I have this appointment at that time. It's definitely hard to keep track of. It's a lot, and making that transition is hard. But I think making sure that for whatever doctor he's going to, that the contact information is his contact information and not the parents' contact information. So it kind of forces them to make their appointments.
Travel-wise, are you arranging transportation and all of that for yourself?
Yeah, it's a little bit different maybe because I have a car and I can drive places, but I know LA has, the Metro has a access system where you can call up a van to pick you up and they'll take you anywhere where a bus can take you, or public transportation. I have, done public transportation before on occasion, but yeah, it's definitely doable. There's ways around it for sure.
I think what Cheryl was saying about pushing your kid, to the limits. Once, I always traveled a fair amount, but once Hawken went off to college, I pretty much am on a plane most of the time, and for a period of time felt a lot of guilt because I felt like I wasn't staying on top of his care as much. But what it did is it pushed it all on him, and it's amazing what they can do. And he's completely on top of his health care and working with his physicians. He sees Dr. Ramos Plot locally in Los Angeles, and so I'm kind of out of the picture. Plus, once they turn 18, the doctors won't talk to you. So, as a parent.
Yeah.
Okay. We have one more question.
Hi.
Hi.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
You seem really well connected at USC. Could you talk a little bit about the process for choosing a school and then how you can get connected with supports?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's definitely different between universities. But as far as housing, we reached out to the person in charge of USC housing and talked them through what would be the best location to go to, and physical therapy, communicating with the director of the physical therapy school. I think someone said this, but really going to the people in charge of everything and talking to them, and I think it could do a better job of that. But we did that for for the important parts, physical therapy, housing, and all of that. And then how close it was to home was important in case my parents need to come up in an emergency, that they're able to do that. Thankfully, I didn't end up going to Syracuse, which I was thinking about going to. That would have been. I'm sorry. But so those are, once you're accepted into the university. As far as deciding, USC was pretty accessible. It's very flat. It's probably the flattest campus in the U.S. But that was very important for me. And I think really making sure that it's the right school for you, like any college admissions process. I think the journalism school was very important to me, and it's very close, and it's a very great school. I learned a lot. And just the community is great there, and they have a disability services program as well that's helpful. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, we met really early. I'm sorry, Hawken. we met really early with the school before the freshman year started, and and a cute story. So I don't know if any of you know Tejas. He's a delightful man that is from Pennsylvania, is going to Harvard, and he's a year ahead of Hawken. And we had heard about all these wonderful services that Harvard was providing. And so we were talking to the disability director at USC, and they weren't being that forthcoming with stuff. And I just dropped, that Harvard does all this. Immediately we got everything.
Yeah, USC's trying to be Ivy League of the West Coast. So. For better or for worse, I don't know.
I'm sorry, Hawk, Mom's been talking, so Dad needs to say something. One of the other factors that obviously wasn't the factor, but it was a consideration, game day Saturday is important too.
Yeah, I'm a big
Roll
football
Tide.
fan, so fight on, fight on. Hey, we
Even Hawk
beat
said
Oregon State yesterday, so yay.
There you go. Fight on.
I think we're done with our questions.
Okay, great.
Thank you so
for your
much,
question.
Hawken.
Thank you so much.